It was God's will that my father passed away before he got to see this day. He gave up his family, his societal status, his career, his conveniences, but doing for each other, sacrificing for each other, sharing good times and bad times, sharing resources, advising each other, spending time together. These are some pretty strong values that we had in our family. You go to Bangladesh and some of these third world countries, you're exposed to a lot of what society was going through. The electricity would suddenly go out at times, or you can't just drive somewhere in a car. You would have to get on a rickshaw, or what we called a baby taxi. You'd have to get on a ferry. You'd have to get on a boat. You'd have to get on a bus.
Like he wanted to do higher study, and coming to the foreign country and do higher study is a little bit different.
My mother was here without her support system. So she left her parents, her community, her family, her home, all the comforts that she had before. She was born into comfort and luxury. And here she was having to worry about how to drive from point A to point B. I remember those struggles of figuring out how to get to a new location. There was a worldview at that time that coming to a first world country would automatically be a better life than a third world country. The reality was a little bit different as it unfolded. On my 7th birthday, we actually moved to Dallas. It was a bigger city, and I happened to be in a very good, well-to-do school district, Richardson Independent School District. It happened to be ranked 2nd in the state at that time.
At the beginning, there is nothing actually. There is nothing, no mosque, no Islamic school, even no halal meat store. If we want to eat halal meat, you have to go to the farm.
So everything from name brands to haircuts to your shoes to your looks were very important.
She started wearing hijab when she was 2nd grader, actually. And that time, I would say that outside there is no Islam.
I had seen my mother wearing it. I had seen Muslims at the masjid wearing it. They actually told me, Mona, you can wait a few more years.
Many kids, they used to think that she wear this thing because she doesn't have no hair. Why you are wearing, this is not Bangladesh. And
some students saying, why are you wearing that tablecloth on your head?
I try to look for the people who practice, who are practicing hijab and everything. Even I didn't understand that time. They didn't understand my language. I didn't understand their language. But we just wanted to be together, Going to ISNA convention, we looked forward the year, every year we look. It was far away driving. We always drove, we never went to by plane.
My parents were not just your typical ISNA goers. They were always on a budget, so they couldn't simply fly. They would have to drive these long distances. They couldn't just buy the food that was available at the ISNA convention. My mother would cook the food from home. My father would go to these conventions and buy every book that he could get his hands on. I remember distinctly him spending his savings for the year on a library of books every time we went to a convention.
One of his hobby was every time we went to ISNA convention, they had very big bazaar, the bookstore. He was the number one. He would always go to the bookstore and buy the books. At the beginning, I always used to tell him, it's too many books every year he's buying, but he said, next year maybe I will not buy much.
Everyone was speaking in Arabic. The lectures were in Arabic, but they wanted us to be in a Muslim environment in order to feel our identity.
When they speak, you feel when somebody recite the Quran, even I don't understand the language of the Quran, but sometimes you just feel it. And then we didn't leave ISNA. In a row, I think 18 years, we went ISNA convention every year. That was our vacation. That's the environment we took them because we want them to feel they're not alone here. They are supported.
Even if they lived cities apart, just having friends who I knew were trying to practice Islam, that really helped me to stay on my path. The sisters that I met who became my friends, who became my confidants, my leaders, my supporters, They took me through the ups and downs of life. After 3 years of residency, my husband was then going to serve 4 years of active duty military. I remember being scared because we had a war going on. So I knew that a deployment was coming. I was a very Muslim personality, and I was apprehensive of how that would be received in the military. I honestly didn't know if my phones were going to be tapped. I didn't know if people would give us a hard time. I really didn't know what to expect. We were established in different military bases, different cities. There was no such thing as Skype or video calls or even WhatsApp. So I would get one phone call that would come at any unknown time. And during that phone call, I could hear bombs going off in the background. I would wait for that phone call all day long. My husband got notice in May that he would have his second deployment to Iraq within 7 days. So I packed up pretty much one suitcase worth of stuff for me and the kids. We left the house just as it was. We got in the car and we drove to Houston. But we get to Houston and decided to put our kids in Iman Academy. It seems to always be a choice of what you give up and what you get. You know, many Muslims felt that if they're choosing to put their child in a public school, perhaps they were losing out on some of the benefits of an Islamic environment, Islamic school. When I came to Iman Academy during the certification process, I noticed that we actually had pretty decent professional development from Dr. Hamid Ghazali. He really was one of the first people who had a PhD in education and used that PhD to improve the Islamic school system. So I saw the struggles and challenges that Islamic schools faced, whether that was from the groundwork of Brighter Horizons Academy back in Dallas, Texas, or Crescent Academy, where my children first went to school, or Palm Tree Academy, where they continued school, and then back at Iman Academy, that we didn't have really qualified people that provided the high standards that we wanted to for our children. We never had teacher manuals. We're always challenged with finding engaging content that really covered our objectives. When Dr. Ghazali gave us professional development, he established standards that were also recognized in the state. I was inspired through seeing that example of the possibilities that Islamic schools have. My parents really encouraged my sister and I not to pursue education for materialistic comforts and benefits, but instead to pursue education in order to honor that knowledge and spread it to others, to improve people's lives with it, to improve society with it.
Achievement is not only dunya, this is for akhirah, you know. You always have to have the purpose, what is the purpose of your life in this dunya.
A journey which my father started many years ago to come to this country to pursue his education, and yet he was not able to realize that journey in his own life. I feel quite fulfilled and grateful that I was able to complete that journey.
He would be so happy that to see his daughter that Alhamdulillah she completed.